Justice League vs. Suicide Squad, issue 6, Joshua Williamson writing and Howard Porter on art. This, of course, is the final issue. This is the first thing I read this week, naturally, because
mine too.
Event, and I wanted to know how it ended, and how did this all wrap up. And it ended up being Killer Frost, who was at the core of the battle. She was the one who kind of was able to defeat Eclipso by, I need to drain his power. How can I do that? Well, I need to get other power from everyone else. And she has this great moment where she manages to turn Superman and the rest of everyone else, because even by this point most of the Suicide Squad's been turned by Eclipso, and she's able to harness all their energy to defeat Eclipso. And that's the
she manages to create a prism of ice.
She does that first,
and and then using sunlight energy
from Superman. Which, by the way, I loved how Batman pissed him off to use his heat vision.
Yeah.
That was a nice touch.
Him talking about John to Superman, especially in the heat of battle, even if he's eclipsoed out, you just don't.
Yeah.
That's how you get red-eyed Superman.
So that was good. Obviously, it gave Killer Frost a big heroic moment, and there was a nice little touch as well before that happened when the rest of the Suicide Squad got taken, and it was just Batman, Killer Frost, and Lobo left on the good side, and I was like, oh, that's a nice little touch, because those are the two that he's going to recruit. As we see at the end of the issue, that's who he recruits for the JLA. So that's pretty cool.
I wonder what an eclipsoed out Lobo would have been like, because I can't imagine you can darken him, because he just he's all about the money. So
well, yeah, because the whole thing is that he Eclipso figures out what your deepest actual desire is and corrupts it.
Yeah.
So how can you corrupt him? Because that was Killer Frost's big heroic thing, is that when he digs in and sees, what do you really want? And it's, no, I want to be good. It's the opposite. I want to be better. Right. And so it's a good moment for her. She has a big thing. Most of the interesting stuff, though, I think comes after the fight.
Just like we've been talking, it's the typical DC crossover event where this issue, hits its I don't want to say climax, right? Early.
That's why I'm a little bit underwhelmed. I feel like I mentioned last week I filmed maybe another issue, and I stand by that now, because the actual fighting with Eclipso feels super rushed.
Yeah, it was not rushed, but it's on the right pace, but the back half is all epilogue.
Well, I mean, it's rushed. It doesn't feel that rushed in this issue itself, but it feels rushed in terms of the pacing of the event overall, because it's half an issue's worth of fight at the end of the event, and that's it against the big bad.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like I could have done with a bit more of Eclipso to really sell this for me.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I kind of agree, but at the same time, I'm like, one, I think all the stuff after the fight's more interesting anyway. And B, it kind of feels like when we realise what the actual purpose of what was going on, because obviously there's a twist here. There's a nice revelation between Maxwell Lord and Amanda Waller, where Amanda Waller, the cunning, conniving person that she is, actually wanted all of this to happen because she knew that Batman and maybe other Justice League members were getting close, sniffing a bit too close to our Suicide Squad, and orchestrated all this to give them a common enemy, a la Watchmen. I just kind of want to point that out there. There's a nice little Watchmen parallel with that plan. So that Batman would be okay with... and by the way, Amanda Waller being smug when Batman kind of says he was wrong is glorious.
And here's the thing. I like all of that stuff, but I think it would have been even more effective if Eclipso had gone further, if it had been more. And then it would have been like, her plan almost went off the edge and she was really close to pushing it. Whereas it still feels like she maintained some semblance of control here.
I feel like she was bluffing because Max Lord was the complete and total wild card, So there's no way she could have controlled that, and him taking over the Justice League, So I feel like it did go almost over the edge. And if not for Batman, which pains me to say, then Max Lord would have, or Eclipso would have totally gotten away with it. So,
yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like I could have done with more Eclipso over the course of the event.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they teased it earlier than when it was, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But either way, the seeds are forward for what's going on.
The payoff was good. The payoff at the end was very good. I just wish retroactively an extra bit of that.
Yeah, all the payoffs actually afterwards were good, because there's a good list of them here to go through. So first up, let's talk about. We'll sort of skip some of the before ones. Let's just go straight to the end and talk about the reveal. Maxwell Lord cracks a little joke after he kind of like tells Amanda Waller like he's figured out what her whole plan was, and he says, "Is this the part where you say?" Because she says, "Oh, you can't escape because I've got all this stuff in your blood, and if you try and move, you'll just blow up."
Which again, I don't understand that plan. Just keep him in a medically induced coma, like. You're not gonna.
She wants him to suffer. She wants him to know that he's beaten.
That's what I'm getting.
It's a power play. It's like, look, if he's just in a coma, it's like, yeah, but he can't think about that. He's not conscious. He's not suffering.
He's not
Whereas
experiencing
this is like he has to be awake and know that she's beating him.
Well, still, then I'm sure there's ways to paralyze him. Just pumping him full of blood thinners so his powers don't work, which that's just weird to me. I always thought the nosebleed was from him like concentrating too hard, you know.
Do you know what I love? I love that I was just brushing past that because I wanted to talk about the actual reveal, and Matt had to stop and go on about this stupid plot point.
Well, yeah, it's just one of those things that I was like, he looks like he was in a Bacta tank from Star Wars with these weird tubes coming out of him, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Williamson, what's up, dude? So
yeah. The reveal though, he says, is this where you say welcome to the Suicide Squad? Which is a line, she says that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
She said it earlier in this event to the Justice League. And she says, nah, I think your abilities will be wasted in Task Force X, but I think you're perfect for Task Force 11, which... double thing. First of all, she's setting up another team for something else down the line, right? That's first and foremost. The second thing is... Wait, the X was a Roman numeral this whole time? What?
I read it as Task Force X1. That's how dumb I can be sometimes.
I don't know. I always assumed it was a Roman numeral.
I never assumed it was a Roman numeral.
X sounds like bureaucratic. Like we're gonna hide. You can't put it Suicide Squad in the funding papers.
That's kind of why I assumed. X, like it was the 10th iteration of her attempts.
I never got that. I mean, I get that now. Now that we know it's 10 and the next one's 11, I assume there has been 9 iterations before this. But
then who was between Lobo and that squad and Emerald Empress? So were they Task Force 1?
I think they're Task Force 9. I feel like there was a lot of other weirder things before then.
Yeah, there were.
See, this kills me.
Like the idea of it being villains specifically was probably the first iteration of X. Whereas before that, it was something else entirely.
Yeah, I can see that being the case, yeah.
This kills me that Doom Patrol's at Young Animal, because you could have done a cool Doom Patrol story. Like, they were the first one. They were all weird. Yeah. Brought in Niles Calder to try to ring them in. And then she kind of mind wipes them and sends them on their way. So
have the Metal Men as one of them.
Yeah, the way I always read it before was the X was like Task Force X was kind of like the X and X-Files, where it was the unknown, it was the secrets, that kind of thing, and that's how it was always implied.
Yep.
But they've twisted it.
I get why people have always implied that. I just always assumed it was.
And I think Task Force X is
there was nothing that led me to.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a relatively new thing too, because I don't think they called him that in the original Suicide Squad comic. That was when they did the Justice League episode to soften it, because you don't want Suicide Squad on, a cartoon geared at kids. So they called him Task Force X,
which is
morphed carried over to the comics.
Yeah, which is morphed into Task Force X as the real name, and Suicide Squad is like the nickname that they've all given it because.
Right. Yeah. So, but the fact now that we're getting Task Force 11 or X1, whatever.
It's interesting, because I clearly took this reveal very differently, because whereas you guys were like, oh, wait, that was the thing, I was just like, oh, what's next?
Oh, obviously I'm thinking
obviously
that too.
There's that as well. But that was all that I was reading it as.
Because obviously the next question is, what is Task Force 11? Why is Maxwell Lord perfect for it? And what is the purpose of Task Force 11? Because it's not like she's disbanding 10 and going to 11. She's Suicide Squad is still going to be a thing. It's still going to be around. Yeah. But she's setting up 11 for something. Probably an event down the line.
Yep.
Probably. This feels very seedy, doesn't it? Like as in it's seeding a lot of things.
Oh, so much seeding. Let's go back a couple of pages. Let's go back to. It's still Maxwell Lord, but he's basically describing what all the other members of the team that he was on are off doing. So much in that page, so you can jump in if I miss any of them. But first of all, we get again Emerald Empress with Sartan Girl, and she mentions if I can't do it with one, I'll do it with 5, which... Now, I'm not super into Legion of Superheroes as of yet. I've not read a lot of them, but I believe this is referring to the Fatal 5. Correct me if I'm...
That is... Yeah. Yes, it is.
Which, and again, that's a villain group from Legion of Superheroes, yes?
Yeah, that's her villain group.
Yeah,
that
right, cool.
She represents. And also the eye is deteriorating, and so she... If the eye deteriorates, I think she said she's stuck. Or she gets sent back to the future.
I think she gets sent back. I think that's what's telling her here.
Yeah. She says it's the only thing keeping me in this time.
Yeah.
So so now she has a ticking, clock.
Yeah. So now I imagine she might get sent back to the future in Supergirl. Because we know she's going to be in there with Superman and that, and then maybe she'll come back with her team next time.
Yeah.
And that'll maybe set things up or whatever.
The rest of the Legion, maybe. Chase.
Yeah, maybe. Next thing on the same page is we so did they mention who it is actually? It's like 2 scientists, I think, have got Sorrow's mask, Johnny Sorrow's mask.
No, just that.
Yeah, but so they've got Sorrow's mask, and apparently it's going on about a lost society is the word that's used, and of course, Johnny Sorrow, at least where I know him from, is a villain of the Justice Society. So again, JSA.
It's all coming up.
Legion of Superheroes, both been teased in Rebirth, being re-teased here in this first
this was
event.
kind of like, don't worry guys, we haven't forgot, it's still coming.
Yeah, it's still coming.
Well, again, it's very... I don't know how much Johns had to do with this, but this is what Johns used to do at the end of his events. It's very Johnsy and it's exciting.
It's exciting. So, they're very clearly seeding all these things. It was funny because I saw an article on CBR, maybe? I don't know. I can't remember, but I just seen it being tweeted out. Oh, event finale teases 3 new super teams. And I'm like, 3 teams? What? And I was like, oh yeah, it does. It's JSA, Legion, Task Force 11. Yeah, okay, fair enough. We've got 3 teams coming.
And I would argue only one of those.
I would argue also JLA as well. Like it's got a big tease. It's obviously know that's coming, but it's also. Yeah. Well, it plays like a tease, doesn't it? If you don't know it's like actually coming, it plays as a tease.
Well, I guess if you're 11 and reading comics for the first time, then yeah.
Well, yeah.
Which is a good point. We kind of glossed over. Batman to Waller's like, but I'm taking Killer Frost with me. Yep. And she's all like, oh, she's a killer. You'll see she's a killer, Batman, and she'll be back. You'll see. And then we also see him make the offer to Lobo as well.
The Lobo offer was great because he's like, we have unsettled business. I'm so pissed that you blew up my head. But
I owe you one.
I kind of talks him down. Yeah. That's really great.
I owe you one, and
go
Lobo
back to
keeps
that
his word.
page.
What page?
The one with the teasers.
Yeah,
the snapshot teasers.
Yeah, what
they
teaser?
may come quicker than we expected because the Rustum one actually already happened in Suicide Squad.
Oh.
That's what that issue was. So I'm wondering maybe these are not as far away as they seem.
What is the Rustum one? Remind me.
He just goes, oh, he's never going to forgive you, and he's going to want to see you hurt, and he's standing up, he's on top of the rooftop looking down at, like, the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what the Suicide Squad issue is.
Yeah. Well, and you also have Polaris, upset that the Polaris personality got brought out again.
Yeah.
So they're teasing that, and there's one other one. The Rustum.
Then there's the kid finding the dad.
Yeah, which might be setting up a new Eclipso villain kind of version of this kid.
Yeah.
If only a mighty mortal could rise up and say the magic word.
It's coming, I'm sure.
I know.
Better be coming.
So that made me think of, and I don't think it's a coincidence.
Probably not. They don't do coincidences when they're doing all these snapshots.
I'm going to make a guess here. I'm going to make just one guess about timing. I'm going to say that after the button crossover, that will bring about one of these teams. I don't know which one. Probably JSA, but I'm not sure. But I think one of them will.
Yeah. JSA has more ties to Watchmen I think, than any of the other ones. Legion, I feel that's Superman driven.
But you say that, but Legion can look at it and go, "Oh, this time's gone funny."
This was it, yeah, but they all lead to each other, and it's not a mess, which is why this is all great.
Yeah.
And it plays up to the bigger picture. But if you're not reading everything like we are, then you can just take, what you will of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and
I feel like the timing's right to get one of them, and obviously we know the button thing is going into May. It's going 2 weeks into May. We don't have the May solicits yet. We're waiting for another 3-4 weeks, and I've got a funny feeling that before those solicits hit, we're either going to get an announcement that starting in May is JSA or Legion. I feel like one of them's coming in May. If not May, June, it'll still follow on from that though. It'll be like,
oh man, I love both of those teams. May is when my anniversary is. Like, let's do it, DC. Like, give me something.
Matt wants an anniversary.
Make me forget about my wife.
Please. Yeah. Well, she'll understand. She knows. She knows.
DC.
And I wanted to wear a Legion ring at the wedding. She knows. Okay. That's made up. It was a Green Lantern ring, but whatever.
I think a Legion ring would have looked a bit classier, not gonna lie.
A little bit, but green clashed with the red and gold, but whatever. I'm not gonna.
You should have bought.
Pete knows I'm not making this up. Pete's known me long enough now. That...
Oh, no, I believe you. I don't think you're making it up either.
I think the disappointing thing here is that he didn't give his wife a Star Sapphire ring.
I did. She wouldn't wear it. Like... Come on, man. I also wore a Superman shirt under my tux because you had to. Like, that's it.
Okay, just to wrap up on the event then. What did we think of the event overall? Is it as a 6-issue series?
I like a lot of these. I love the early stuff, and then the ending, it happens, and then it leaves with all the seeds. I felt that way about Infinite Crisis, although Infinite Crisis made me cry. But I'm sure we'll discuss that later. And Blackest Night. I really felt the same with Blackest Night. Where Blackest Night kind of happens, and I was more interested in what happened afterwards and what that led to. So...
Yeah, DC does this a lot. I think overall it was a solid event. I like that it was so contained for their first major event. It feels like it was big and impactful, and obviously all these seeds are going to play out across the rest of the line. But it feels like it didn't interrupt anything almost.
No. Yeah, the only tie-ins came in Suicide Squad and Justice League, which makes sense when it's Suicide Squad versus Justice League.
Exactly.
So,
it does.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this before, but I like how it was 6 weeks, once a week. It didn't feel like it dragged on. It got through it quickly. As far as the thing overall, I thought it had a lot of good character moments. I thought it set up the new things. Obviously, the seeds at the end for all the new exciting stuff we're looking forward to is really cool. I thought all the fighting that did happen did have good moments in it. Like, the early fights with the League and the Suicide Squad and their fun banter was good. Even the
There was never a pointless fight, was there?
Nah, they're right. There was never a pointless fight. They really teased the villain group with Maxwell Lord in the first issue really well. Him walking in, you never see his face, and all the killing going on and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was teased very well, and yeah, and even that page. Just to go back to the banter between the heroes and the villains, that page in this last issue, where they're all comparing scars and stuff and whatnot, and like Boomerang's trying to chat up Wonder Woman. Oh, I'd be the only man in Themyscira. It's like, no, there'll still be no men.
Yeah.
And, just so the dialogue was on point. Lots of fun little teases. I have a lot to complain about. I agree with Connor's main complaint that the Eclipso thing is a little bit truncated.
It's just some general pacing issues.
Yeah.
But overall, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think for the first event of the Rebirth era, it's a solid entry. I mean, admittedly, it's probably going to pale in comparison to the ones that are going to come down the line when we
the real events.
Yeah.
Well, the Master's coming back to the table for that, so
we assume.
Matt, I'm starting to suspect that you like Jeff Johns or something.